listening to Game On DC, your home for local gaming and esports news in the DMV. Find the show on social media at Game On DC and by using the hashtag GoDC. Without further ado, here are your hosts, John and Joey.
What is up, DMV, and welcome to Game On DC, the show dedicated to you, the gamers and esports fanatics, right here in the East Coast capital of esports. My name is Fiasco. You can call me John. That dude right next to me is the courtside king, aka Joey. Joey, happy Monday. It was a little crazy for both of us here on a Monday, but super excited. Game On DC is back, and we got some awesome topics to talk about today.
Say back in the office, so pluses and minuses to that, as we all know, with how the pandemic is gone for many of us. But we had some pluses and minuses in esports. A lot of pluses this weekend, a few minuses, but overall, I really like the growth for our teams here in the DMV.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. Joey, you had some fun today in the office, right? Like your badge didn't work anymore. Like there's nothing nothing went right. I mean, it's typical. Let's get back to the office after 15 months of a pandemic shutdown. And nothing worked.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. A lot of coworkers weren't there, and then my badge had expired over sometime in 2020 over the last year of not being there. John, I had to ride the metro again, and we all know how the DC commute is around here, whether it be traffic or the metro. It was craziness all around.
Oh my goodness. Well, Joey, if you followed Game On DC on social media, you would have spent your time on the metro wisely, because Game On DC is pumping out some pretty awesome content on social media. So if you're not doing so already, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Game On DC. Super simple, right to the point, at Game On DC for every single one of them. And you can find all of our social media there as well. And the show, yes, it is live here on Twitch. It is something new that we're doing for Game On DC, and we're super excited for it. It is still also available on the podcast form as well on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you do listen to the podcast version, leave us a review. They are awesome. We appreciate them. Gives us the feedback. We want to make the show what you, our listeners here in the DMV, want. So please do give us that awesome feedback. Joey, it was an action-packed weekend. Everything started on Friday. Actually, on Thursday, if you really want to break it down here for DMV esports teams, WizDG kicked the week 6 off for themselves, riding a nice little win streak going in there. The Washington Justice, they had a chance to punch their ticket into the summer showdown. There was a lot on the line, and it was such a great weekend to be a DMV esports fan. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the Washington Justice first, breaking down week 13 of the summer showdown, which was really like week 3 or 4. It's really weird how they end up breaking those weeks up. But week 13 overall in the Overwatch League season, and Joey kicked off on the 9th last Friday, and they did it against the London Spitfire, a team that, for lack of better terms, definitely a shell of themselves from once before. Joey, they have not won a single game, and that trend continued on Friday when the Washington Justice came in. They broke out their brooms, they broke out their dustpans, and they sweep the Spitfire up after they caused them to crash and burn there in 3 straight maps. It was absolutely fantastic. Justice was served once again.
Yeah, I feel like the Spitfire, did they even show up on Friday? It's just their planes did not have enough oil to even come into that matchup. A quick 3-0 clap for the Washington Justice. But not only that, John, not only did the Justice get a dominating win on Friday, we also saw the debut of a fan favorite player in Tuba coming out not as a DPS, but as a support player.
As someone who plays support, first off, I'm going to go ahead and say not everyone can play support. Not everyone has the skill and the understanding to play support. Yes, I'm not a professional Overwatch League player. I fully understand that. Yes, the highest I ever got to was Diamond, and that was a long time ago. That's good. I have no problem admitting that whatsoever. Tuba coming in and playing a support role, I think, was really, really cool. A lot of fans, on social media were really hyped when Tuba was announced that he was going to come in. Joey, I know for you and I, for the co-stream, we were going to interview Tuba. Tuba. Yeah, it's my brain's not working. Interview Tuba on that Friday, unfortunately, because we weren't able to do the co-stream on that Friday. That we delayed that interview to the next day for the LA Gladiators match. But it was really, really cool to see Tuba back in the lineup. And Joey, I have to say, he performed pretty well as a support player. It's definitely a different mindset coming in there as a DPS player in that support role. But man, his brig was so good.
Yeah, and that it's a little taboo to mention it, but if you guys remember back, Tuba played a lot of Brig when Goats Comp was a thing, and he got a lot of a feel for that hero. He was able to perform quite well on it from time to time. Now it's rotating into a support role where it now belongs in a meta that actually feels a little bit more regular for what we expect in the Overwatch League. He was able to bring that knowledge from that previous season right into this season and really dominate the Spitfire with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a quick breakdown of what that matchup looked like. It was 2-0 on the first map, Lijiang Tower. It was a clean 1-0. That's all the Justice needed, was just the first point, because the Spitfire couldn't find it. Their GPS broke down. They were flying overhead, and they couldn't find the landing spot. And then for map 3, it was 3-2 on Eichenwald in favor of the Justice. Joey, it's an escort map. Actually, it's a hybrid map, and it's a map that, you know, I personally love, but it's a mode of map that we see the Justice struggle from time to time. Going up against the Spitfire, yeah, 3-2 seems kind of close. Again, hybrid and escort maps are the maps that kind of make me a little nervous. It gets my anxiety going. It gets my hands a little sweaty watching the Justice play there. But they're able to pull it out against a team like the Spitfire. Does that make me feel better? Maybe a little bit, but the Spitfire being like 0-11, 0-12 now, I mean, overall, if they dropped a map to the Spitfire, I probably would have been pretty disappointed. This is a team that should have been swept and was swept, rightfully so.
Yeah, I think if you look at these maps, and we've talked about it on the co-stream, if any of you guys tune in for that on YouTube, the hybrid maps and the escort maps are definitely a weakness or an area of improvement for the Justice to continue to focus on. With that being said, I feel like Eichenwald is probably our strongest of those two modes. And we came out here, we had a little bit of a shaky showing at certain points during this matchup, but in the end, able to really come through, finish off that map on Eichenwald to make it a clean 3-0 against the London Spitfire, who should have been a 3-0. We come out and get the job done as we should.
So after the Spitfire wasted our time on Friday, I think the whole thing was done in like 55 minutes. I mean, look, London, please show up next time. I mean, make it a challenge. Do something. Look, I won't beat a dead horse. Their fans have suffered enough, even though they do have a championship back in season 1. We won't talk about that. Joe, let's go ahead and take a look at the second match here in week 13. LA Gladiators, and that was a matchup that a lot of people had circled on the map. On the coach stream, we talked about how this was going to be one of those matchups to really see where this Justice roster was at, chemistry-wise, gameplay-wise, communication-wise. How are they gelling now 13 weeks into the Overwatch League season? And Joey, I mean, this really paid off. Coming into this, they only needed to win one map to qualify. Compliments of Dallas absolutely throttling their opponent before the Justice went on. So I believe it was Atlanta, right? Or was it Toronto? It was one of the red teams.
No, it was Toronto. Yeah, Toronto.
Yeah. So they absolutely throttled Toronto. Toronto took a map off of them, which was, okay, fine, it's whatever. Goes for 4 maps. Dallas Fuel win. One map is all that was needed for the Justice to punch your ticket to the Summer Showdown. And Joey, I'm sitting here going, I would love to see a series win. This would be a big statement win for the Justice. A lot of the casters on Watchpoint were talking about, what version of this team are we going to see? Are they really as good as we think they are? On paper, they should be doing better than what they really are. Joey, I am pleased to announce we came out there as the Washington Justice. It went 5. It definitely got a little sweaty. It went 5. It was a 3-2 victory for the Washington Justice. And really, we touched on it a little bit when we're talking about the Spitfire here. The big thing came down to, it was after the first 2 maps where the Justice really did feel like they dominated those 2 maps on Nepal and Hanamura. When it came down to the hybrid and the escort map, those are the 2 maps we dropped. Those were the 2 maps, again, that have me absolutely terrified watching this Justice team play, because I just get nervous. Like, they do not perform that well on these maps for whatever reason it is. Those are the 2 maps they dropped, and it forced map 5 in Busan. It was a repeat of the Shock series. It went all 3 points, and it was just an absolutely amazing series that the Justice were able to pull out in the end.
Absolutely. I think you hit on a lot of the key points here, and it just played out exactly the way you and I predicted going into this matchup, going into the co-stream. The Justice start out strong. They play control maps, typically very strong in general, regardless of the opponent. We saw them play well against the Shock. They played well against the Fuel early on in the season on those type of maps. So in the end, control is the least of our worries. It comes down to the escort and hybrid maps. I feel like on Hollywood, there are some positive takeaways, though. We didn't defend very well in the second rotation, but that's one of the first times we pushed a payload the full way on a map like that. So I think that's a big advantage against a decently strong team, let's say, on a map like that. up against the Gladiators, coming out, showing that they are getting those improvements in there. They are finding ways to push the payload, whether it be changing up the composition, changing up the players actually in the match. Different things being talked about behind the scenes are coming through. Then on the defensive side, not quite as clean. I believe the middle was where we held pretty effectively, if I remember correctly. It was a very quick cap for the Gladiators. Then they pushed and they got stalled up for somewhere around 3 to 4 minutes in the middle before capping that one off. It was tough. I thought we were going to finish them ahead of that, but it did not happen in the end. We did give up Hollywood. Then we went on to give up Gibraltar pretty unfortunately. Again, escort maps, they are our Achilles heel so far this season. From there, as you said, going to Busan. Up against the Shock, we ended up losing that matchup in that one. This one, we decided to close it out against the Gladiators. So not only do we get our one map, but we also took home a win up against a strong team who is just above us in the standings, both for the season and for the summer.
Yeah, so, we needed one map. I know a lot of Justice fans would have been happy with just one map. I wanted more. I'm greedy. I have no problem saying that. I'm super greedy when it comes to the Justice. I wanted that dub. They got the dub, and that was a great win. They were able to bounce back. I mean, it's really tough when you're up 2-0 and you're one map away from closing a series out to drop the next two. Now, all of a sudden, your back's up against the wall. You don't have that momentum anymore. Mentally, as a competitor, you're feeling pretty down. Like, you're going into this series, you're up 2-0, and you're like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to close this out. Maybe we drop a map, but you're not sitting there thinking you're going to drop 2 maps. You're going into a hybrid map on Hollywood, and you're thinking, hey, we're pretty good at controlling a point. We're very good on control maps. We're very good on, capture the point maps. There's just so many things that went right for the Justice in this series that for whatever reason, as soon as it switched to a hybrid map, that very first point of defending that first point I can't even explain what happened. Just the Gladiators came in there as such a quick cap, like you were saying. And it was like, I think it was 5 minutes. They had to get from that point to the first checkpoint, pushing the cart. We stalled them in that backlot studio for quite a while. That's definitely a positive takeaway. But at the end, we still couldn't close it out. They had plenty of time left in the time bank. They had 53 seconds. The Justice were able to push it all the way to the end also. But it was like in triple overtime, it felt like every point went to overtime. They finished with 0 on the clock. They get the bonus minute, which also goes to the Gladiators. So they had to try to cap the point in a minute. The Gladiators had almost 2 full minutes to do it. Justice couldn't do it. It was tough. The Gladiators ended up taking that point. Small improvements. We're taking the small takeaways there from that hybrid map and what we see on escort maps. Still something they definitely need to work on going forward. This is a team that wants to make the playoffs and have championship aspirations. You have to get better at both of those modes.
Absolutely, but it was enough to qualify us for the qualifiers of the Summer Showdown, and we ended up facing off against the Paris Eternal first. John, this one went the distance. I did not expect this one to go the distance, but in the end it did. That was a 3-2 victory over the Paris Eternal for the Justice. Breaking this one down, I'll be honest, guys, Justice fans, I'm going to leave it all on the table. I missed the first couple maps here. Maybe that's why we dropped them. Who knows? I'm not going to relate the two. But in the end, I was able to tune in for map 4 and 5 to watch the Justice close this one out.
Yeah, it was good. I was a little shocked that they dropped Oasis. That one was definitely a kind of a shocker there. Hanamura, the fact that it was only 1 point needed, I think was just a testament to, again, the strong defense of this Justice team. They're very good on those maps. Hanamura, that same map that they had the 6-minute hold on earlier in the season. I'm going to keep bringing that up until the Overwatch League no longer exists is essentially what's going to happen. That was an outstanding defensive hold. Hollywood, again, Achilles heel. Route 66, they won. They won an escort map. I mean, that's big. Again, making those improvements. We're looking for those small improvements, and we saw it here against the Paris Eternal. Final map going into Busan. I don't know. I feel good on Busan for the Justice for whatever reason. I just feel like that's a map that goes in their favor every single time, and it did, again, a clean 2-0 in favor of the Justice to round it out. But then, Joey, what is the reward for beating Paris? How about a date with Dallas? I mean, talk about like one of the worst, like, hey, congratulations, you made it in last day into the Summer Showdown. You're going to go up against the Paris Eternal, team you just recently played. You did pretty well against them too. Your reward for beating them is a date with one of the best teams statistically in the league and with the record right now, and that is the Dallas Fuel. And it did go 5, so I was happy about that, but that's about all it went, was just that 5. It was a loss for the Justice. It was 2-3. in favor of Dallas in that sense. But again, you have to be pretty happy with what you saw. The Justice did take another win on Route 66. That's absolutely huge. That's 2 back-to-back series wins on escort maps. The hybrid map went in favor of Dallas again. Those are the 2 I'm going to constantly harp on because those are what I want to see the improvement on. Everything else, I feel comfortable with this Justice team. Yes, they dropped Volskaya. I get it, but that doesn't happen that often. That doesn't bother me as much. The hybrid and the escort maps, for whatever reason, that's our Achilles heel, it feels like. And it feels like we're almost destined for 5 matches, regardless of whatever good team we play, because we can't figure out the hybrid and the escort map.
Well, you got to love the irony, too, of Dallas kind of being that final boss. They were one of the reasons that we had the ability to jump in. Now, in the end, we didn't need them because we did end up taking the win against the Gladiators, but they were kind of flirting right around with that line of allowing us to get in there. In the end, they are the gatekeeper that unfortunately keeps us from Hawaii Justice fans, at least this time. We'll have another opportunity later down the road, but for now, not making our way out there to Honolulu. This one, again, control maps, guys. Control is our strength. We do it up against the best teams. We did well against San Francisco on control maps. We did well against Dallas, taking 2 control maps here, both map 1 and map 5. What do we got? Lijiang, and it was Nepal for that final one. You mentioned the win already as far as Route 66. That's a big win, guys. It doesn't look like it in the end. Yes, we still dropped the series, but our biggest weakness is those escort and hybrid maps, and we've hit that so many times on the coach stream and on here. It's finding ways to improve on those. So even though we lost the series, we did split between those 2 map types. We ended up losing the hybrid on Kings Row 3-1, but found another win on Route 66. So moving forward, we're going to continue to progress in those areas. We're going to continue to find ways to improve. And as the team gets better, whether it be compositions on these certain maps, whether it be their approach mentally to these different map types, they just got to find a way to move that payload. The capturing of the point part is even not that difficult for them. It's moving it. For some reason, this team struggles with moving the payload, and I don't exactly know what it is. I don't think it's a specific issue with a player or a coach or anything like that. I think it's purely the mentality of the team. They're very strong, and when they get a point, they can hold it. It's just finding a way to capture and move a moving point, in a sense, with the payload. So once they get that down, the league is going to be on notice for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But until then, we're looking for those small incremental improvements. That's how you get better over time. I guarantee you they're practicing. I guarantee you they know that statistically these are their worst 2 map types. So I guarantee you they're very well aware of it. They're working on it, and we are seeing those improvements, which goes to tell you they're working on it. So really excited for that. But for the Melee, for the Summer Showdown, unfortunately, the Justice now out of it for that. Let's take a quick look at the standings here in the West for the Justice. Currently in 5th place at 8-4 overall. We'll take a look at the top 10 here because let's be honest, teams 11 and 12 belong to London and Vancouver, and just no one cares about them right now because they just can't win. At least the Mayhem have 4 wins to their names. So then you have Toronto, Paris, Boston, and Atlanta all below the Justice at 5. Then right above us is the Gladiators that they took down on Saturday. Houston, which is going to be the Justice's next opponent on the 30th of July, 4:30 p.m. There will be a co-stream for that, so definitely tune into the official Washington Justice co-stream on YouTube for that stream as well. Then the Shock in 2nd place, and of course Dallas Fuel, the team we just lost to in 5 maps though, so take that as you will. That is still a very good, impressive performance there. 9-3 for both of those teams. Dallas with the tiebreaker over the Shock currently. Mainly due to map differential with +14 versus +13, Joey. I mean, look, you have to be happy with how the Justice have performed so far. Again, 8-4 overall. You have doubled your losses in wins. So, that's a strong record. It's a strong win percentage. Your map differential, you're at a +9. So, you're playing pretty well. Overall, I'm very, very pleased with how this Justice team has been playing. The hype is real, and I think the Justice fans understand that. And it's just weird because the casters on Watchpoint, for whatever reason, they are so hung up on some of the weirdest things about this team, and that causes them to just absolutely ignore the Justice, and it drives me up a wall a little bit. But nonetheless, 5th place, pretty happy with it.
Yeah, place-wise, I mean, overall, guys, and you guys are Justice fans watching this show, you know that this team has come out. They've shown up week after week. This is not a team that is just a top tier team or flirts with the top tier every once in a while. They're a team that's typically top tier. Every once in a while, they'll have a tough week. We saw it at the beginning of June, end of May, right when those June hero bans came out. It takes time for teams to adjust. I think the Shock also had some faults there. I believe Dallas also did too. Houston, I think, might have lost one as well. So a lot of these top tier teams, when you throw in bans, it definitely changes up the mojo of the team. And it screws up the meta as well. Like you have heroes like Sombra being used regularly. Reinhardt was another one, Tracer. And a lot of the Justice, you look at Decay, one of the best Tracers in the world. You look at the way Assassin and Jerry were playing Sombra phenomenally well. Reinhardt, everyone knows Reinhardt is such a vital hero on so many different maps. So to take out those 3 heroes and Zenyatta as well, it definitely shakes up the meta that the teams have to deal with. And going from 1 week of having one meta to another week not having those 4 heroes available will shake things up. Unfortunately, the Justice ended up losing 2 matches that weekend, and it took us a little bit of time to get it back together. But once we did, and now without hero bans, we are looking pretty clean once again, taking the Dallas Fuel, that top-tier team, all the way to a game 5, unfortunately in the end losing it, but showing that we can contend with the best. We can push them to their limits, and moving toward the end of the season, that's just going to get better and better as they get better at these escort and hybrid maps.
Absolutely. So with that, again, just a reminder, the next game for the Washington Justice, July 30th, against the Houston Outlaws, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Again, make sure you tune into the official co-stream of the Washington Justice on the Washington Justice YouTube channel. You'll see more of us there as we try to imitate casters for Overwatch League. So it's kind of fun. we have fun. It's all in good fun there. Joey, let's go ahead and turn our attention now to the other pro team in the area that is currently in action. That is, of course, the defending champions, Wizards District Gaming of the NBA 2K League. Joey, it was a big weekend. It was an absolutely big weekend. They are going up against 2 teams. They're kind of in the middle of the ballpark when it comes to overall standings in the East. It was a big weekend. They were riding a 7-game win streak. They were coming in against a tough Pistons GT team that, it kept it close, at least for game 1. We'll take a look at game 1 here real quick. It was 66-61 in game 1 for WizDG, extending their win streak to 8-0 after this game. And you have to be very happy with how this team performed. Again, JBM is leading the way in this team for points scored. And the thing I love to highlight here is you have 4 players in double digits for points scored. That's absolutely big. Anytime you have multiple players with double-digit points, you have a very high percentage chance of winning any game, whether it's in real life, whether it's in a video game. For basketball, it's absolutely massive. And then on top of it, when you have Nudini, first off, Joey, Nudini, a reminder, started the season at shooting guard, moved down to power forward back in week 3. He is putting up center-like numbers, 14 points and 6 rebounds. You're going to see some more crazy numbers from this guy later on as we break down the rest of these matchups here. 14 points, 6 rebounds. Dayfry, 16 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. He was so close to a triple-double. JBM had his double-double as well with 11 assists. B-Rich is stepping up like a madman, being plugged into the system back in week 3. He is averaging almost 11 points a game. When you're a shooting guard and your offense goes through the point, it may be tough sometimes for the shooting guard to get points. B-Rich is doing it. They are working him in the rotation. It's paying off, and it was an absolutely fantastic game for him.
Can we talk about how AI players just not pulling his weight down there at the bottom?
That's my one issue with how they do stats here is because there's technically 6 players on the roster. You would think they would be able to code that out because obviously you can't bring a 6th man in mid-game. It has to be in between games. But anywho, yeah, AI's not pulling his weight, and I love it. If you pay attention, any timeout or halftime or end of quarter, the AI player is on the floor, and the back of the jersey says AI player, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. It's weird.
You gotta love it. And we have so many more matchups to cover, but I think the big thing here, and you hit on it, is the fact you see so many players scoring. The ball is being distributed well. When you look at some teams in the league or just some teams even in the regular NBA, one of the issues they have is that the ball, it almost becomes like a ball hog situation where sometimes you'll have one player just controlling everything. And WizDG has gone to that in certain situations if it works for the game plan. We've seen it with JBM, we've seen it with Dayfry, and it can work from game to game. But there are certain games where the defense is good enough, or even where you want to prepare for better teams, where you need to be able to distribute that ball. You need everyone to be able to hit those greens. You need to be able to be a multi-threat team. And even up against these teams that are not necessarily top tier, WizDG is able to get that practice in. So when you eventually get deeper into a championship run, like we saw last year where they potentially have a title shot on the line, they're already going to know how to do that. They already have the distribution in the works. You already have multiple players rebounding. Just Awkward, the one player in this match not hitting that double-digit points, but he is such a vital player for this team in general. Plays one of the best locks in the league. Just phenomenal play from this team in general. And again, John, I think the ball distribution that you mentioned is the big key here in this game.
Joey, if you think game one was great because it was close, allow me to introduce you to game two real quick, where it was an absolute thrashing by WizDG. It wasn't even freaking close. It was 70-56. The Pistons even go on their social media and say, man, y'all embarrassed us. And they did. I mean, let me put it to you this way. Going into the fourth quarter of this game, Joey, it was a 5-point game. It was a 5-point game going into the fourth quarter. Dayfry and JBM just absolutely took over and destroyed the Pistons almost single-handedly between those two as a double-headed monster. Absolutely fantastic. Let me just break this down real quick because it was such a blowout. I mean, they're going to have great stats. JBM, 21 points, 11 assists. B-Rich, 11 points. Just Awkward, 6 points, 3 assists, 3 steals. This man is tied for 8th in steals per game at 2.2, right there with Dayfry. That is 4.5 steals per game that you are guaranteed every time. Awkward had 3. Nudini, 18 points, 13 rebounds. Get at me. And Dayfry, 14 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Again, Dayfry, the best big man in the league. He shows up in the clutch when the team needs him. He will block you. He will steal, 2 steals, 3 blocks. The man is an absolute beast in the lane, and he put it on display here, and it came up big in the fourth quarter.
Sorry, I was dealing with a troll in chat trying to sell me followers. And we all need followers here, and you guys can go ahead and follow at GameOnDC on Twitter if you want to give us some free followers, or just don't click that link that guy's posting. We'll just avoid that one for now.
Well done. Well done. So with that, so the win streak goes to 9 after that, and then they go up against a what a lot of people said may not be the toughest matchup of the weekend, which turned out to be the toughest matchup of the weekend. They go up against Magic Gaming, and their 9-game win streak on the line. Game 1, the rare loss. It was the 4th loss for WizDG here on the season. Again, it's a 2-game series. All 2 games count towards your overall standings. So right now, after game 1, they're 13-4. Their 9-game win streak comes to an end. It wasn't their best game, and I'm going to show you exactly why. Okay, when you take a look at the points, yes, JBM popped off, 27-10. Again, JBM is not the issue. Dayfry, 16-11, not the issue. Take a look at B-Rich, Nudini, and Just Awkward. They were all held to below their average. Strong defense on the side of the Magic. Game 1 is usually that feeler game. Usually if WizDG is going to blow a team out, it's going to be in game 2. Game 1, it was a feeler game. And it wasn't their best defense. It wasn't their best defensive game. I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to show you why. Rezi, 30 points, 10 assists. Snubby, 20 points. Future Clutch, 10 points. May, 12 points. Right there, you have 4 players in double digits. You have 2 over 20, and you have 1 that hit 30 points. I mean, right there alone, you shut down their guards, you win this game. But the problem was they couldn't stop them. They were hitting shots left and right. It was statistically their worst defensive game. And I guarantee you, head coach Pat Crossan let them know about it because they definitely fixed things going into game 2. But this is a unicorn, if you will. This is a very rare game that WizDG dropped. And even though they dropped it, it was still pretty close. I mean, it was a 14-point game. It wasn't like a 25-point blowout or anything like that. 14-point game. It was fairly close. The big difference coming in that fourth quarter, it was a 21-11 score differential. That's absolutely massive when you're already trailing. And that would end WizDG's 9-game win streak.
It's in any given night thing in certain situations. Like there's going to be nights where certain teams come out super hot and they're just going to hit shots that you don't feel like they would hit consistently. And it's just going to happen for a quarter. That is possibly what happened here in certain situations. I think you hit on it though. I think for me, it was more a lack of defense in certain areas. It seemed like they broke down. I don't know if there was some kind of mental element to it as well as they started to get dragged down. if it just kind of steamrolled from there and snowballed to a victory for the opposing team. But regardless, you mentioned it. They were able to turn it around, John, and they turned it around brilliantly in game 2.
Oh, I mean, look, they said, hey, look, you beat us by 14 points. Congratulations. We're still the number 1 team in the East. We're still the number 1 team in the entire league, and we're going to prove it to you. And they came out in game 2, 75-57. Joey, it was almost a 25-point win. It was a 23-point win instead. Absolutely freaking beautiful. I mean, this is how you bounce back. This is how you bounce back. First quarter was pretty close, but then they started to pull away. Big second and third quarters, 23 and 22 points scored respectively in those quarters, holding Magic to 13 and 14 points in those quarters. Those were the 2 big quarters that sealed the deal for the Washington for WizDG. You don't have those 2 big quarters going into half and coming out of half. This game's a lot closer, but they popped off, and rightfully so. And you're going to see here again. You know, Joey, I talked about it before in the last matchup. What's better than 4 players in double digits? How about 5? JBM, 19 points, 12 assists. B-Rich, 12 points. Just Awkward, 13 points, 2 steals. Nudini, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Dayfry, 14 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. I mean, that's how you bounce back. Like, if you're an esports fan or you're a fan of any competition and you drop a game and you want to show that you're the better team, that you can dominate your opponent, that's how you bounce back, and that's exactly what we saw WizDG do in Game 2 against the Magic.
Absolutely. WizDG here in Game 2 practically made the Magic look like the London Spitfire up in that Justice matchup. It was just a straight-up smackdown. They came out there, you mentioned it earlier, Coach Pat Crossan. He's a championship-winning coach. He knows how to change tactics game to game. You also have legends like Dayfry on that team. They bring tons of leadership both on and off the virtual court, able to come out there and just really say how it should be. Guys, we need to pull it together. We got smacked around. Our defense was weak in Game 1. Let's make it a lot stronger. Let's come out there with a solid game plan. Let's get the job done. They not only do that defensively, holding them to 57 points, but John, as you mentioned, they get it done offensively as well. Everyone hitting double digits. 12 assists for JBM as well. I don't think you mentioned that. JBM just constantly scoring and constantly distributing, getting it done all over the place. Great rebounds across the board as well. Dayfry with a double-double there, hitting 11 rebounds. This team knows how to win. They are going to have an off game here and there every once in a while. It's very rare. As you said, we were on a 9-game win streak coming into this one. Or, yeah, it was 9-game into Game 1. So overall, this team is so strong. They're a championship-winning team. They know how to get the job done. They have a championship coach, a great organization behind them. They're going to falter here and there, but it's championship-caliber teams that are able to pick themselves up and get it done in the next game. That's exactly what they did here.
Absolutely. And just real quick, they probably have one of the best promotions to encourage fans to root for the sweep. $2 10-piece McNuggets. I mean, that alone is worth the sweep. They've had 5 sweeps so far in this season. That's $10. That's 50 McNuggets you could have had by now. That is a deal and a half, if you ask me, but that's neither here nor there. Joey, real quick, we'll take a look at the standings for where WizDG is. Before we talk about what's next for the 2K League, which is the Turn Tournament, WizDG, again, first place overall in the East, first place overall in the league, 14-4 with a 77.8% win percentage. I mean, DC fans, like, step up. Like, this team is for real. Defending champions, they're good. They're absolutely incredible. Watch a game if you haven't watched a 2K League. It's really, really exciting. These players are insane. They have great personalities. If you watch the local broadcast on NBC Sports Washington, you get to see interviews with them after those games. You get to see those personalities come out, and you get to know the players a little bit more. Really, really, really super cool. I mean, look, if you're looking for a winning team, we have 2. In the Washington Justice at 8-4, and the Wizards District Gaming, the defending champs, at 14-4. I mean, come on. I mean, it's such a great time to be an esports fan here in the DMV. But Joey, just before we wrap it up, because we are coming to the end of the show, the Turn, which is one of the mini tournaments that the NBA 2K League. Before I do that, power rankings, real quick. Number 1 overall, shocker. The power rankings are pretty much done based upon overall record, with maybe a change here or there based upon how they played against each other in the regular season. So just nothing too crazy there. But WizGG number 1. So there you go. But Joey, up next is the Turn, which is one of those mid-season tournaments for the NBA 2K League. WizDG with the #1 overall seed. We get the preferential treatment. We get to play the winner of Gen G Tigers versus Celtics Crossover Gaming. And that's really exciting. This is taking place July 14th through the 17th. The 14th are the play-in games. If you care about who we are playing, that game, Gen G versus Celtics, tips off at a bright and early 10 p.m. at night on the 14th, which is Wednesday. So if you don't have anything to do Thursday morning, definitely check that out. I'll be up watching that game. It's a best-of-3 series. Each game takes roughly 45 to 50 minutes, so definitely take a look at that. But Joey, that's where we're going to be focusing the remainder part of the show here is on this bracket for the turn. This is going to be the next time that the Wizards, that WizDG plays. And this is very unique. And the reason why it's unique is because there are bans. And if you're thinking, how do you ban in basketball? Well, it's simple. Each position has 5 archetypes that you can choose from to have your player play the play style you like. They're going to have bans for that. And in game 1, there'll be a total of 4 bans. It'll be an away ban, a home ban, and away ban. So that will be 2 bans on each side that they can't choose from those archetypes. In game 2, there'll be 1 more additional on each side, limiting their choices to 2 archetypes. If it goes to game 3, no more additional bans. You only have those 2 to choose from. This is what makes the turn tournament so unique, is because you have to figure out how to play based upon what archetypes are taken out. I guarantee you, point guards will be targeted 100% in the turn. They're the highest scoring position in the league right now. They will be targeted. Those archetypes will be taken out, and it wouldn't surprise me if they only had 1 or 2 to choose from. It really wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a big difference maker. And I feel like looking at the tournament prior to the ban system, you think a strong team like WizDG, they have a very strong chance of running this bracket. And I still think they do. But if you're a tall team, if you're one of those top teams in this sense, the bans are going to hurt you a little bit more. You already know you're one of the best teams in here. You're already getting the job done on multiple facets of the court. Now they have the potential to ban players out, whether it be JBM, whether it be Dayfry, and it's really going to come down to that practice that we talked about in these earlier matchups, where everyone on the court is going to need to be able to score and to be able to get their job done. If you end up taking out some of the best archetypes really available to JBM or Dayfry, then it becomes, okay, how do we score? If Dayfry is, I'm not going to say Dayfry is going to get shut down because I don't think that's ever going to happen, but if he's limited in a way compared to what we're used to, and same with JBM, Nudini's going to have to step up. Just Awkward's going to have to step up. Be Rich as well. They're going to have to be capable of scoring. They're going to have to be capable of upping their rebound count, maybe taking over that double-double. Again, archetypes are not the end or be-all, but they are a huge part of NBA 2K League. And compared to a weaker team necessarily, banning out an archetype I don't think is going to hurt a weaker team as much. Like, obviously, in comparison, the players might not be able to play as many as a top-tier team, but at the same point, they're coming in with, I guess, less of a focus on them compared to someone who is that top dog, compared to someone who has all the eyes on them like a WizDG. So I think it's going to make it interesting. I love the idea of bans coming into this tournament. I think it adds another layer of strategy to the different teams coming into it. And that's also where your really good coaches come into play as well.
All right, so let's just speculate here real quick. The first round matchup, Gen G or Celtics. Just some stats here for you, Joe, before we make our prediction here and close the show out. We do have history against the Celtics. Played them back in week 1. It was 1-1, was a series split. That was before B Rich was put in at shooting guard and Nudini was moved down to power forward. Bully and FT are averaging almost 20 points a game, 19.8 and 19.1 per. They rank 30th and 31st overall in points per game in the entire league. Those scores were 58-55 in favor of Celtics in game 1 and then 68-51 in favor of WizDG in game 2 for that split. Gen G, no history with this team this year as of yet. They will play in week 9. Beast Move currently averaging 22.4 points per game, and J Money averaging 10.7 assists per game. He's 5th in the league, just above JBM, 6th in the league for assists per game at 10.5. Joey, I'm going to go ahead and say that Gen G takes this. I think Gen G is just too much for the Celtics to handle, and I'm kind of excited for that Gen G WizDG matchup.
Yeah, I think Gen G takes it as well. Celtics have been a little bit lackluster overall. I think this, regardless of who wins, though, whether it be the Celtics or Gen G, John, I think this is an easy dub for WizDG. They just look so strong right now, and I don't expect them to bow out this early.
No, absolutely not. And then when you take a look at who's going to be coming out of the rest of this bracket, I'll tell you right now, there's only two teams that worry me. That's the Jazz and that's the T-Wolves. Those are the only two teams that worry me. The Jazz are a high-caliber, high-scoring team. And the T-Wolves, they're right there in second place in the power rankings. They're a very, very strong team out in the West. Those are the two teams that kind of have me a little bit nervous, but I still think WizGG can take a best-of-3 series against them. For me, I think finals or bust for WizDG would be appropriate here in this. I do think those would be the only two matchups that they would have a hard time with, and that matchup would not come until the semifinals for that side of the bracket. And they're only going to face one of them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, T-Wolves are definitely a team that I would look out for as well, just compared to what we've seen from them playing each other in the past. Obviously, rosters changed year over year, but the matchups between WizDG and the T-Wolves have always been exciting to watch. As you said, though, I'm with you, John. I think win it all or bust for WizDG. They're the strongest team in the power rankings. They're the returning champions. They look so great right now, and they're able to get the job done on any given night. I think they got to win this one.
Absolutely. So after that, they have a bye week after the turn. They will be back in action on week 8 of the season. Week 7 is a bye week. So mark your calendars accordingly. That will be July 28th, I believe, will be their next matchup. So take a look at that as well as after the turn is finished. Joey, that's actually going to do it for us today. It was a fantastic episode once again. Super excited to be doing the show live. And yeah, I feel pretty good. Words. How are you feeling about our two teams heading into the next week?
Pretty good outside of that sound you just made.
Words are difficult today.
Yeah, and we had a lot going on this week. We had the regular season matchups for the Overwatch League, then into Summer Showdown where we played 2 matches and unfortunately losing that last one, but putting up a good, strong showing against a very strong team. Then for WizDG, we had the regular season matches and then going into a big midseason tournament here in the turn. Lots of great action so far for DC teams, and we're looking pretty good overall, especially as we get closer to the end of the season.
Absolutely. So that will do it for this week's episode of Game on DC. If you enjoy Game on DC, we want to hear from you. Leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher if you listen to the podcast version of the show. We would love to hear from you all across all of our social media. Let's see, I lost my place in the notes. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on that social media to keep up on all the gaming and esports news here in the DMV. Joey, where can the listeners of Game on DC go to follow us?
Absolutely, listeners. Head on over to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and find us at Game on DC. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch. We are at the OTN Media channel over there. So on Twitch, that is twitch.tv/OTN Media. This show live Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, guys, on all social media, we use the hashtag GoDC.
All right, so make sure you tune in next Monday, July 19th, as we cover to continue the esports news here in the DMV. Do your ears and eyes a favor, hit that sub button here on Twitch and your favorite podcatcher of choice to know when the next edition of Game on DC is ready for your viewing and listening pleasures. We will catch you all on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week, and as always,
Go DC.
Let's Game on DC. Where's it Go DC?
Oh, I have no idea. Let's do Game on DC. Let's do it again.
Yeah, as always,
Game on DC.